And we're live! So I'm really excited about this video today because I have wanted to show you guys my new toy for, well, man, I guess it's been a few days now since it arrived in the mail, and I've spent some time playing with it, and it is the product that I alluded to in my iPhone XS video from last night. And it is my brand new Switch, and then actually also something else that just arrived today that is closely related to it. So a lot of you guys complained about the audio in our video last night, saying that it was really bad. And it's funny because, like, sometimes it's hard, but other times it's really easy for me to tell who didn't watch the video. And this was one of those cases where it was pretty easy to tell who didn't watch the video, because only people who didn't watch past about the first minute would have thought that the audio was bad for the entire thing, because the reason we had a bunch of background noise was that I had this commercial grade network switch running here in the office with me while I was delivering the lines about sort of the video that I'd rather be making instead of doing the one about the iPhone XS. And a lot of you said in the comments, well, come on, Linus, I would have rather seen a video about that Switch than the iPhone XS. So today, I will be obliging you. The reason that we got one of these, so this is a used Dell S4048T-ON. This is a commercial grade network switch. It is a 48 port, so you guys can check out the back here. This is a 48 port, 10 gigabit switch. And the reason that we're upgrading to it from our Netgear 28 port and our Netgear 12 port, there you go, it only gets super loud like that during the boot up process, is that we have gotten to the point where we're running out of 10 gig ports. When we first went 10 gig, we got a 12 port switch thinking that was enough forever. You know, I would hook up my workstation, we'd trunk two 10 gig connections to our main editing server, we'd have one 10 gig connection for another editing server, and then we'd have our team of 6 at most video editors all wired in for 10 gig, and then we'd have a couple extra ports left over just in case we needed them. And then we were like, oh, okay, now we ran out, and we got a bunch of servers now. We've got the Petabyte project and all that, so I was like, okay, screw it. Let's just get their 28 port. We'll get their bigger one. And now it's getting to the point where even people like the writers want 10 gig networking so that they can look at raw footage, because you guys got to understand, those red files, when you're just playing them back and trying to scrub through them, you can see 3-4 gigabit per second on your task manager network monitor. Like, they really need more than a gigabit connection in order to review them. And in some cases, especially with something like a crazy project like the flying PC, it is necessary for the writer to go back and scrub through all the footage before it even goes to the editor, so they can figure out exactly what is the narrative here, where do we need some voiceover and all that kind of stuff. So we've gotten to the point where pretty much everyone in the building either needs or at least strongly wants to have 10 gig networking. And remember, it's more than just what we have hooked up at any given moment for a project we're actually working on. There's also the component of, like, whatever we're testing. So let's say, for example, I was working on, the Meg Store. Shoot, I think we actually just took that out of here, but I had a Thunderbolt tape deck. So it's a Thunderbolt 3 tape drive machine that, in order to test the maximum speeds of, I needed to have a 10 gig network connection to one of our servers in order to copy files onto it. Because I wanted to know, well, I wanted to evaluate it as a feasible way for us to archive our footage. And obviously, anything that we're archiving would be coming off of our network. And then Jake was actually recently working on a project where he was running 100 gigabit links between two machines. Now, that was just a cable, like a machine-to-machine direct attached copper cable, but he still needed to be able to grab large test files off of our servers, and it's nice to wait 1/10 the amount of time rather than, you know, sitting around for gigabit to chug. So anyway, I was inspired to get a 10 gigabit switch so that we can get every port in the office on 10 gig. for those reasons, and also because we talked about this on WAN Show, but we're going to be getting a significant, oh, I am so excited. We're going to be getting a significant upgrade to our internet connection here. And it's more than just a speed boost. So we already have a gigabit symmetric fiber internet connection, but it's switched fiber, which basically means that once a request goes out of our office, it actually goes through multiple network switches before it ever reaches somewhere like a major internet exchange, where things get really fast. Okay, so the connection we're getting now is not only going to be 5.5 gigabit, so over 5 times the speed. We are actually leasing a dedicated wavelength within the fiber. So what that means is there is effectively no switching between us and the Vancouver Internet Exchange, VANIX. So this has a couple of effects. Number one is it means that we will have basically the highest quality connection possible because we aren't sharing our wavelength with anybody. And number two, because our ISP is super dope, and I don't throw the word dope around lightly, because our ISP is flippin' awesome, even though we're only paying for a 5.5 gigabit internet connection, we will actually have full 10 gigabit to anyone else out of VANIX, which includes Amazon, Google, Akamai. So for a lot of the services on the internet, especially the bandwidth heavy ones, we're going to have effectively 10 gigabit internet. Sorry, did I get you, David? Sorry, dude. So 10 gigabit internet. So now there's actually a compelling reason for any one of our workstations to have a 10 gigabit network connection, because we're going to have a 10 gig pipe to the internet. Anyway, other specs of this thing that might be interesting to you guys. Come check this out. So we've got our 48 10 gig ports here. And what's the total switching capacity of this thing? It's 1.44 terabit per second, and it is rated for 3 microseconds of latency at full load. Did I tell you that, Jake? 3 microseconds of latency? He's monitoring the stream audio. He's a little behind us. And this is cool. Over here, these QSFP Plus ports are all 40 gigabit ports. So if what we wanted to do was, let's say we wanted a high-speed connection over to our LAN center, we could just run one fiber connection from this would be like our main switch. This would be our top-of-the-rack switch. So we would run a single connection over to there, and we'd have effectively a 40 gigabit link between that entire switch and this one. Or if instead of bonding connections to our main editing server, our NVMe server, if instead of bonding connections, we just wanted to run a single one, we could get a cheap, like $50 direct attach copper cable and run it from this down to that editing server with just a few $100 network card, and boom, we have a 40 gigabit connection, which means that if we had 4 editors that are pulling footage off of it at the same time, there would be no bottleneck whatsoever. They could all get their full 10 gig. The other thing that's really cool, but actually there's a bunch of stuff that's really cool about this thing. It was not cheap. To put it in perspective, I could have bought myself probably one each of the new iPhones for what I paid for this thing used. But, I mean, them's the breaks when you want to be on the cutting edge, right? So there's some other pretty cool stuff about this thing. It's got hot swappable fans. Check that out. It freaks out when one of them fails. The whole thing can be reconfigured, either blowing from front to back or back to front, depending on your rack configuration, which is pretty neat. It's also, oh yeah, so this is okay, I'll show you guys this in a minute. It's also got dual redundant 550 watt power supplies. So this is neat. They're hot swappable. So if, let's say one of them failed outright, the operation of the switch is completely unaffected, other than just you would want to set it up so that you get a warning or something, so you can come in, pop a new power supply in there, and get back up and running. There we go. Let's just put that back. Boom! So this is, you're supposed to use like an adapter cable. Mine's used, so it didn't come with it. So you would adapt this to, I think it's serial, and then you can interface with the command line interface of the switch that way. Or it's got an Ethernet management port, or the one that I've actually tinkered with so far is, this is funny, I'd never seen this before. That is a micro USB port on the front of the switch. So what you do is you open up, here, hold on, here we go. There we go. So you open up a program like Putty, get it all configured. I think with the USB to serial driver I have on here, I think it's COM6. And I think oh, hold on. Shoot, I don't know if I have the settings configured right. Serial, COM6, here we go. Yeah, I might have to reboot it in order for this to show up, and I also might have to change some of the settings here. Yeah, it depends. It's different from switch to switch, and I might have had the wrong thing up just now. But anyway, that's actually how you interface with it. So it's all command line until, and this is another cool feature of this thing, I'm like super stoked on it, until you install a third-party OS with a web UI, if you're into that sort of thing. Now I want to open this puppy up. Jake, I'm not convinced this is faster. I think I could go faster with a manual.
I really don't think you could.
Okay, you know what? There.
Race?
Everyone saw how long it took to get those 5 out. Fine, let's race. Hold on.
What do we have left?
Let's see who can get 5 out. I'll do this 5. You do this 5.
Okay, you ready?
Okay, ready, set. Oh, damn it. Damn it. Oh, my friends, you are seeing the world's first screwdriver race championship.
Oh!
No! Okay, it was pretty close. It was pretty close.
Yeah, but you were trying really hard. Here's a screw.
Oh, did I drop that one? All right, technically I dropped a screw and you didn't. Or did you?
Oh.
Oh, wait.
You dropped another screw.
No, that was after the... All right, I got a couple more to pull out here, actually. Actually, do you mind pulling out the ones on this side?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. I think the main takeaway here is that 2 heads are better than 1. Or many hands makes light work, or whatever. I'm sure there's something that my, grandma told me all the time that's applicable here.
Probably. Use parts trays, did she tell you that?
Actually, that's a pretty good idea. I don't think I have one in my office right now. Thank you. All right. So, what exactly is it that would make a network switch worth thousands of dollars?
Huh. Oh, hello. Fine.
That. I mean, in terms of the grade of hardware that's inside this thing, this is basically a full-blown 1U server, other than that it's just highly specialized. So this guy right here appears to be an mSATA SSD, so it actually uses an SSD for its local storage. Go figure, right? This right here, I already popped this out. If you guys follow on Instagram or Twitter or whatever, you would have seen that. This is a 4 gig ECC memory module. So I am really curious to see what effect, if any, I would get out of upgrading it, because I'm pretty sure we have some ECC memory lying around somewhere in the office. Right here, let's see, I think, shoot. So I wasn't able to get these heat sinks off. It seems as though they are basically glued in place in addition to the screws. And I did get this one off, but the chip inside there is actually unmarked. So I wasn't able to tell you too much else about it other than just that this thing is flipping fast. It requires substantial cooling. Like, these fans move mondo airflow, and these heat sinks are beefy AF. Like, check out how thick these things are. Can you see that, David? And naturally, all of this is just half of the story today. So we can go ahead and shut down the switch. Now, in order to, oh shoot, I had, oh, forget it.
So the unmarked
Okay, we can do that another time.
Switching ASIC.
Switching ASIC, you think?
Maybe.
It might,
It
but
has two. It has like the controller and then it has
yeah.
the switching ASIC.
So I suspect this one's actually the controller
Yeah,
because
that's
it's near the memory
probably-
and the storage. I think this is probably the switching ASIC. So ASICs are for more than just mining, even though in the climate of the last couple of years, that's probably the context that the average sort of semi-techie person has heard about them in. But ASICs can be used for all kinds of things. Just any specialized repetitive application where you don't need a general purpose processor, often you can do it more efficiently, both from a cost of hardware standpoint and from an energy standpoint, if you use an ASIC, a purpose-built chip. Sorry, what's that?
Super chats.
Super chats?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you can tell me one while I get to the next exciting part of today's unboxing.
So, Sir Morokai for 20 euros says, does it have RDMA or ROS v2? Did you look at that?
No, actually, I didn't check if it has RDMA. That is a fantastic question. Right now, I don't think any of the network adapters that we're using have RDMA support anyway. We do have those Mellanox ones that we're going to be using for the 100 gigabit project, but that's something that we haven't actually looked into actually deploying yet. So good question. Wish I had a solid answer for you, but unfortunately I don't yet. Now, I'm not a command line wizard, as those of you who've been watching, shut up, Jake, as those of you who have been watching for a long time probably know. So honestly, the furthest I've gotten to the Switch so far is just teaching myself some of the basics in order to hopefully get myself to the point where I can install a web UI, because networking isn't my forte in the first place. So command line is definitely not my preferred means of interfacing with hardware. Yeah, just questions is good.
Okay.
But you can filter them according to your judgment.
Here's a good one.
Yeah, just hit me with a good question.
Sing
Or
Despacito?
here, can you just... Really? That's not a good question. Can you sing... Despacito, something, 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 something. I don't know any of the words, but I think I could probably do the melody. Yeah, I think it's also in Spanish, and I don't speak any Spanish, so that makes it really challenging for me to when I can't find the words to say to. Okay, I think that's probably enough of that. Painful. That was really hard for me to listen to, and I was the one doing it. Hit me with another one.
Oh, I got a comment.
Okay, finding your channel got me interested in tech again. Also, LOL at the shirt. Yeah, so this shirt was definitely a James idea. Well, actually, I think it was kind of a team effort. Jake really wanted to do an RTX on shirt, and then James's contribution was the arrow. And then it was kind of one of those...
So inaccurate.
It was one of... What happened? I thought you were the arrow.
No.
Oh.
I wanted to make a shirt that said RTX on, and then you didn't want that. You wanted to draw abs or something, or show the Lambo, or an object that was on. My idea was that the person wearing it was the thing that was on. So then I said, what about an arrow? I think Nick said an arrow pointing up, and I said, what about an arrow pointing down? And that's the moment that Linus goes, yeah!
Okay, well, I didn't remember exactly how it happened, but at least I credited the right person, so I'm doing pretty well here. Anyway, okay. You know what? No, I wanna talk about this thing. So this is a Supermicro 5019 DF8CP, and these guys really need to start using like cooler names for their products, because Supermicro makes some pretty amazeballs stuff, and it's always called like a bunch. They should just call this like the Crunchinator, because this is going to be the new router that we are going to pair to our Switch. And I don't mean like pair, strictly speaking. You don't like pair a router and a Switch. It's just going to be the router that we're running, and then this is going to be our new top-of-rack Switch. And I just realized I never showed you guys a QSFP Plus cable. So this is not your mama's network cable, but this is what we're going to want to run for 40 gigabit speeds. So you'll get a card that also runs that connector. You plug it in like that, and then they've got these handy dandy release mechanisms here. And then this is relatively inexpensive, so it's direct attach copper. And these are these nice thick copper cables. But even with beefy cables like this, you can only go so far at those kinds of speeds with the technology we have today. So if you want to go any further, then you need to get fiber modules, and then you need to run fiber, and it's a whole thing. We won't be running fiber from the main network room over to the servers in the other spot. There's no real reason for it, because all we're going to be doing is like gaming, which is not going to benefit on a LAN from fiber. And it would just add additional expense. You got to protect the fiber runs with like armor, like something. Like it's just not worth it. Anyway, what's cool about this guy is that this is basically just a computer. It's just a server, but they designed it to be kind of purpose-built for routing applications, like kind of. So only one power supply. Yeah, I was kind of surprised and a little disappointed to see that. But I mean, I guess the odds of it failing are pretty slim, but I don't really like the... So what we'll probably end up doing is the same thing that we've been doing now. I actually had a few people ask me when we did our last tour of the server room why we had 2 of those Ubiquiti routers in there. And the reason is that we just had another one configured identically as a manual failover. So we just grab all the cables that are plugged into the existing one, power up the new one, put them in exactly the same spot, and bippity boop, it's off to the races. So it's possible we'll end up doing something similar to that, but we'll see. We can cross that bridge when we get to it. Yeah, I was actually kind of thinking we would do that. So Casual Unboxing says, long-time listener, first-time caller, love your show, learned a lot over the years. Here's a show of support. Oh, thank you very much for that. Ooh! Oh! Oh! That was hard to listen to. I'm gonna grab a bigger bit. Whew! I'm sorry. Wow, brand new machine here. All right, so let's talk some basic speeds and feeds of this guy. Like a lot of Supermicro's gear, this is a bare bones box, so it doesn't actually have RAM or storage in it. So it's just a case, motherboard, power supply in most cases for bare bones. But even though this is running a Xeon processor, it's the type of Xeon that most people probably won't be familiar with. So over the last couple of years, Intel has, well, the entire industry has moved away from having motherboards with sockets and then CPUs that fit in the sockets as just the exclusive way of putting CPUs onto motherboards. And a lot of the time you'll find soldered processors, not just on laptops, but even on things like servers. So this is a Xeon D, which is more like an SoC than it is like a CPU. Like obviously there's a CPU component to it, but this bare bones also includes a processor. So it's a Xeon D, and I'm gonna struggle with the exact numbers of the model letters, thing, whatever. But anyway, it's an 8-core, 16-thread processor. It's 80 watts of, it's rated at 80 watts of total power consumption under load, TDP. I hate doing things live for this very reason. So it's got an 80 watt TDP, but the most important feature that it has for us is actually one called, oh crap, my stupid computer just locked, and I had some of the notes that I needed for this video open on it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and open that up. Yep, thank you. 8-core, 16-thread. Right, so the feature we really need is one called Quick Assist technology. Now, there's a little brother to this guy. This is about $1,600, which I know that sounds like a lot of money, but in the context of an internet router that can handle a 10 gigabit internet connection, it's actually a value. That's like the cheapo DIY one, because we're going to be running pfSense on this thing. But it also has a little brother that has a 4-core rather than an 8-core processor that doesn't have this quick assist technology, but that would also be suitable as long as we aren't too picky about our encryption performance. So the thing that led me to this one in particular was actually a couple of articles I was reading over on Serve the Home. That is a fantastic website, by the way, if you're looking at getting into networking, network storage, really basically, because I don't know, the only thing I don't like about them is the name. Because Serve the Home makes it sound like it's going to be just consumer grade stuff like Synology, NASes, or whatever, but it's not at all. They do everything from that all the way to the top of the line. It's really cool. They do a fantastic job. They're the only ones in the space, I think, that are really doing it justice right now. But anyway, the reason that we care about that is that if we want to use IPsec VPN tunneling, this has hardware acceleration for it that quad-core version doesn't. So that's the real trick. So right now, with our Ubiquiti router, we're able to get gigabit internet no problem, but because it doesn't have hardware acceleration for the type of VPN that we're running, I can only get somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 to 5 megabytes a second transfer speed. So that's 30 to 50 megabit. That sucks. Now, there are ways I could optimize it, but I think I'm still going to be limited to probably about 3 to 5x that, which obviously if we're running a 10 gigabit internet connection is not going to be suitable. So we wanted to make sure that we're upgrading the rest of our infrastructure at the same time in order to keep pace. With this guy, I don't think we're going to be able to do 10 gigabit, but what I would like to see is in excess of 1 gigabit. So TELUS tells me that I'm going to have 1 gig coming to my neighborhood sometime in the future. So I would love to be able to have direct access to our servers at work at 1 gig securely. That's kind of the goal of this upgrade here. So we can have a closer look at the rest of the hardware in here if you guys would like. So we've got a, I don't know, I'm just reading this off the thing at this point, but 200 watt, 80 plus gold power supply. Alrighty then. It's not immediately apparent to me who the OEM is, but it's Supermicro built. Generally speaking, we haven't had any issues with their stuff in the last little while, so I'm not going to complain about it. We've got a couple of those same type of cooling fans that we actually saw on our Switch. So those super thick but really small 40 millimeter cooling fans. These things move a freaking ton of air. So you can tell right now this thing is configured for front to back airflow. But what I actually suspect is that we could flip it around without too much difficulty here. It looks like these could just be popped out and then popped back in the other way. They're just on these little rubber mounts here. And I still haven't decided exactly how I want them configured. I may want them to be back to front, in which case I'd actually have to order some replacement power supplies for the Dell. I tried it, and it actually won't boot up if you, or not I tried it, sorry, I was reading about it, didn't try this particular thing, but it looks like it won't boot up if you have some back to front and some front to back, like if your power supplies don't match your chassis fans. So I don't know how it knows, or maybe it was just that they didn't recommend it, but I'll see if I can figure that out. But if I have these on the back of the rack, it's possible that I'll want them sucking in from the back and blowing out to the front. All my existing switches are side intake and exhaust, so it hasn't really been an issue, but I mean, these are just little things to solve. Anyway, we can pull that off, put that back in there. What do we got? We got a couple of 2.5-inch drive cages here. I mean, typically you wouldn't need a ton of that. The only reason I could think of to use these would be if I wanted to throw a couple low capacity 2.5-inch SSDs in here and then just have them run RAID 1 in case, something failed. We don't want our pfSense OS to not boot up. We've got a couple of U.2 connectors. That's like madness. So we could run like high-speed NVMe SSDs for both of these. That would be pretty flippin' sick. We've got a couple of M.2s. So this is just a little, that looks like a 40 millimeter one. And then right here is an 80 millimeter one. So that's kind of the industry standard. We've got what looks like mini PCIe. If you wanted to throw like a Wi-Fi card in this thing for whatever reason, you got a full-size PCIe 16X here. I don't know what purpose that serves because if you're familiar with the 1U form factor at all, you probably know that it's not very tall. As far as I know, this board is specific for this system, but you never know. Maybe they have some kind of OEM design that they do that they've reused it for, but basically the only one you've got access to is this 8X and only if you have a single slot card. So what you would want to use that for, and check this out, this is the front of the case. So this comes out the front. So that would be if you want to add probably more networking capability or that quick assist technology. That's what it's called, right? Quick assist technology. You can actually get standalone cards for it too, but I don't know what their relationship is to the ones that are built into the CPUs themselves. It's something that's been evolving over the last 5 years or so, so it definitely requires more research. I just wanted to kind of share this with you guys while it's hot and fresh before I get it all built out. Oh, it supports quad channel memory. That's the other key difference between this one and the half as expensive one. That one's dual channel. So because you've got 8 cores, 16 threads, quad channel memory, high-speed storage connectivity, you could actually use this not just for internet routing purposes. Because remember, a lot of that is going to be offloaded to the hardware accelerated the hardware accelerated cryptography hardware on here. So you could actually use this CPU with virtualization for other tasks as well if you're into that sort of thing. I don't think I'm going to virtualize our router. I might, I don't know. I can't really think of a benefit to it. It doesn't take up a ton of rack space, so I might not bother, but feel free to let me know in the comments on this video if you think I'm totally wrong and we should definitely run a hypervisor over top of pfSense. I mean, pfSense is already at a slight disadvantage compared to networking specific hardware using x86 in terms of latency. I can't think of any reason to add any more overhead to it, but maybe I'm wrong. At the front, sorry?
A lot of super chat.
Oh yeah, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. So here at the front, we've got an Intel i350. So that's powering 4 gigabit connections. So this would be useful if we wanted to have like separate, I don't know, like separate VLANs or something like that. If we wanted to manage that directly off the router. So we would want to, so basically those are kind of like separate virtual networks. So they don't have access to each other, but then you can create rules through your router to allow like certain machines to talk to others or certain types of traffic to cross them. So that's why you might want a bunch of 1 gig connections. Then we've got a management port here. This will be for our KVM downstairs. We've got actually 2 more 10 gig Ethernet ports. So those are powered by, what is it? There you go, an X557 Intel chipset. And then these 2 right here, so these are SFP+. These are 10 gig as well. And these are running directly off of the SoC. So that's what makes this an SoC rather than a CPU. It's got some more kinds of esoteric features built into it that you wouldn't normally find in just a general purpose central processor. So why don't we do a couple of those? Do you mind just tilting this a little bit so I can't read it with the hood on it? Okay, Mad Jack says that cable be thick. Yes. Thank you, Mad Jack. The cable is indeed thick. For those of you who are just tuning in, we were looking at a thick cable a little while ago. Yep. Camille, noticed me, senpai. Yes, I have noticed you. And RTX bait is so OP. Well, I don't know what kind of unboxing you guys were expecting to find on YouTube today. What's an RTX?
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, me neither.
I don't know what that is. I don't know what RTX is.
Oh. Guys, chat.
Oh.
Who wore it better?
Which shirt?
Yeah, who wore it better? Who wore RTX better? Oh, I can't keep pretending I don't know what RTX is if I acknowledge it like this.
Yeah, I don't know what RTX is.
PC says, out of curiosity, how many, if at all, LMG employees have a CompTIA A+ certification? It's not a requirement. I guarantee you that probably a good third of us could pass that kind of a certification, but it's, as far as I know, I don't think anyone has an A. Oh, Anthony might. Hey, can you open the door? Hey, Anthony, do you have your A+? Yeah. Okay, do you have CompTIA? Oh, that's the same thing. Yeah, I thought they were separate. Never mind. Ah, that's right. Thank you. Okay, so Anthony is the only one who knows anything about that. And yes, he does have A+. So he actually worked as like a computer technician before he joined here. He wasn't just like a weird enthusiast that like really wanted to make videos about technology. Alexander says, why don't you build a homebrew 10 gigabit switching solution? You know what? It's not impossible that we would ever try to do something like that, but as far as I know, the best performance still comes from off-the-shelf switches. So, yeah, can't say nothing like that would ever happen. Oh boy, he moved the thing. Adam says, Linus, you're awesome. I'm a doctor, but I've always loved networking. You've taken my interest to a whole other level. That's cool. I mean, really, that's kind of what we're all about here. Like, frankly, our channel is not the place where you're going to find like the detailed step-by-step guide for how we configured this thing once we've got it deployed. For that, you're going to want to go to like Level 1 Techs or somewhere else, please. But really, you know, what we're about is just kind of sharing our love and passion for technology. And so if it gets you interested enough that you want to dig a little deeper with other resources like Level 1 Techs or Gamers Nexus or whatever else, then we feel like our mission's accomplished. Slider says, decided to become a data network engineer after seeing your server room vlogs. See, exactly like that. You know more about this stuff, Slider67, than I ever will. I guarantee it if you're already like doing that kind of work. And I think that's great. Like a lot of people get frustrated when we make a video about whether it's 3D printing or networking, and they say, oh, like you guys didn't go deep enough, or you didn't get this quite right, or whatever the case may be. But the reality of it is tech is so wide. Like it used to be we'd make a video about something that wasn't a PC, and people would like lose their minds. Like, what are you guys doing? But tech is so broad, and the reality of it is, even with 20 people here, we can't be the deepest subject matter experts when it comes to every single aspect of it. But if we inspire other people to dig deeper, then I think that's fantastic. All right, last one. Folk Johansson says, how much is 1 gigabit fiber connection over there? Woo. Okay, so it depends. If you just want a 1 gigabit residential connection, I suspect it'll be around, I think it's around $160 for a TELUS Pure Fiber 1 gig.
I think so, yeah.
I think it's around that. So that's what I'll be paying at home. Our fiber connection here is $3,000 a month for 1 gig.
Why?
Because we have a 99.9 or double 99.99% uptime guarantee with a service level agreement. So basically, if our internet goes down, they start paying us, is how that works. So it's business grade internet. We also have many more IPs than you get issued with a standard residential connection. And there are a lot of reasons why you might want more than one IP. It's a higher grade connection, so even our switched fiber here is better than what you're getting at your home, even if you have fiber to the home. What are some of the other reasons that it matters? We also have an allocation of space in our ISP's data center, and that's something special that our ISP did. I don't think we'd get something like that through TELUS directly, and it's all on TELUS's backbone anyway, so we're getting the same effective service. But we're allowed to keep servers in their database, so we can do offsite backups there. What else do we get for our $3,000 a month? We get amazing customer service. I can literally, I don't want to oversell them because I don't think everybody gets exactly the same treatment. And to be clear, it's not because they knew who we were. They were great to us before they even knew what Linus Tech Tips was. In particular, their CTO is amazing. Like I can call him at 2 in the morning, which I think is 3 in the morning his time. And he's just like, what up, what up? Oh, is it this one? Is this shirt live?
Maybe.
Do you want to check?
I'm opening it right now.
Okay, so anyway, the 5.5 gigabit connection is going to be about, it's going to be more. It is, it's up. Oh, you guys can buy this shirt now if you want, apparently. It's up on the Design DBH store, I think.
Merch.linustechtips.com?
Is it merch.linustechtips.com? I feel like, here, hold on, I can check.
I have a link, too.
Sheesh. That Lloyd. Yeah, merch.linustechtips.com. You'll find it there. It's the one on the bottom right. RTX on with we moved the arrow a bit, so it should be noted that this is like a cheap mock-up. So if you look closely at it, this is just like a vinyl iron-on, like Garbage Town print. But we also adjusted some things. So I thought that the nipple, instead of being like way up here, should probably be more like here. So we moved this up a bit. And I think the arrow's not going to be quite so long because you can see it kind of gets scrunched up and lost in the bottom of the shirt. So we made a couple of changes, but yeah, this shirt design is apparently live. So there you go. This video is brought to you by LTT Merch. Check out the link in the video description, which isn't there right now, but should be there later.
Just add it. Does that work?
Bye. Yeah, Jake's going to put it there now.
I don't know if it updates though.
Who wore it better, Linus or Jake?
What if I just spam it?
Linus wore it better.
Spam.
Yours is lame. See, mine's like,
Spam.
mine's got dick jokes. That makes it better. Okay, you can end the stream anytime now.